due to the fact of Bob Iger's ongoing deliberate agenda and his cost containment plan, which is wreaking havoc at every single Walt Disney company, including Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, just to name a few, and even the live-action remakes that are currently in production as we speak. One of the big ones is Snow White 2025, the most expensive of all, by the way, which is already creating a lot of chaos for Bob Iger and the Disney executives. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing that we know about Bob Iger is that this man is a liar. He will say whatever he has to say to please the shareholders, to please the core customer base, and to really just string them along into the following year. Now, there's been a lot of things going on to this very day regarding Snow White, the live-action remake, ever since the teaser trailer has been ratioed to no end across all forms. The ongoing situation between herself and the ongoing boycott for the film. A lot of customers, even families, want nothing to do with Snow White 25. Let's get into this. Another heated exchange with director Mark Webb, writer Greta Gerwig, and the marketing team after new statistical data came in from Disney analysts about the growing Snow White boycott that were specifically designed for the movie and based on Rachel Zegler's iteration of Snow White. An estimated $20 million investment just for starters, and is already leading this film to sell the film at all. Now, her legal stance comes in the wake of Iger deciding to fire and remove her from several projects. The boycott, however, also led to the official cancellation of special presentations that Zegler was going to film that would be considered pre-taped and aired in response to the growing backlash for the film. Now, guys, before I move on, let me just say, not only led to the cancellation of millions of dollars worth be pre-taped by Rachel Zegler that are now completely off the table and no longer happening. Now, those presentations were going to be used as the part of the promotional. They want to get things done right around then, and that's interesting to say the least. They want to start pretty much another downward spiral for Bob Iger and the Disney executives. Presentations by Rachel Zegler and more. Now, on top of this here, what's interesting is PR disaster. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff as well was very much her being labeled as difficult to work with. So, this is another example of Disney has than Bob Iger. I believe it's going to be somebody that is more in tune with the whole DEI agenda and everything related to ESG scores. It's going to be worse. I can almost guarantee you guys that. It's not going to be a remedy. It's not going to be any kind of a resolution project. And what I mean by that is locking this project up in a vault and never letting it see the light of day. This way, at least, you can save part of what little image Disney has left.